Hey guys, I'm here this morning with Mars. Hey Mars. And we're just going to talk today a little bit about the personal narrative essay that you guys are going to be working on for the next couple of weeks. So we've done an informational expository essay when we did our hero paper, which you guys should have all gotten back from me sometime this week. Or earlier, and then we'll be finishing up the semester with our final synthesis paper, but I'll give you some more information on that towards the end. Right now what we're working on is the narrative, and so a narrative, as you remember, is a story, and so this is basically you're just telling a story that's straight out. There's no formal essay kind of thing that you've got to make it like there's a thesis statement and in this paper I'm going to address these three topics. There's none of that with a personal narrative. A narrative is just a straight up story about your life. These essays are going to end up being about a page and a half long, so they're not super long. But what I want you to do is to narrow down your topic to something that is really small. So like you don't want to tell the whole story of your first grade experience, right? You want to tell one specific thing that you remember from that. And we'll be talking about this a lot in our Google Meet this week. So I encourage you to come to that 1 o'clock on Thursday and share some of your brainstorming ideas. So your assignments for this week are pretty simple. One is the narrative. Well, one is actually you're going to load your Frankenstein projects into the wiki page. So you've been working on that, and you'll go ahead and load those up, and then we'll look at those together in our Google Meet next week, and I will be sending out prizes. You do have to show up for the class in order to win those, so be sure that you show up for that. But besides the Frankenstein thing, what we're going to do is this brainstorming activity that is loaded in the block below this, and all you have to do is click on the Google Doc, make a copy, and then add to the actual document that I've already created for you. And if you look at this, it's going to say that you're going to write 150 to 200 word response to one of three prompts. One of them is place, one is person, and one is an event. And what I mean by that, those are really broad, but I want you to think about places, events, and people that have been really important to you in your life. And you may want to just brainstorm. This is one of those things where you don't need to edit yourself at all. If this is a junked up mess, that's even better, okay? I want it to be a junked up mess because this is just you generating ideas. So the more you can get down, the better. So don't worry about editing, proofreading, none of that. You're just typing. And then you're going to pick one of those things. So for me, a place would be my grandparents' house. Growing up, that was a hugely important place there where I spent a large part of my time. And I have a lot of memories of it. So my grandparents' house, I have some not so good memories of my kindergarten classroom. I hated kindergarten. It was a horrible experience. I remember a lot about it because it was super negative. So my kindergarten classroom. Other places, the church where I grew up. So I would make a list of all those things. My room, my playhouse. I had a little playhouse out in the woods. So those are things that I might list as places that were significant to me. They don't all have to be from your childhood. It could have been from 3 months ago. It doesn't really matter. People, again, good and bad. My kindergarten teacher, not awesome, but definitely made an impact on me. I would include her in this list. Other awesome people, maybe the minister at the church where I grew up. My 6th grade teacher, awesome. So those are people, my grandmother, those are people that influenced me in good ways too. So whatever I have a strong memory associated with, those are the people I would include. And then events. I remember this really horrible time on the bus in 7th grade. I don't know why this sticks out to me so much, but these kids trapped a mouse on the bus and in somebody's toboggan, like their hat, and killed it on the bus. that's a very vivid memory to me. It was terrible. So I might, as I'm writing about all this stuff, jot all of these things down, because those are just things that trigger a memory in me. That's part of the brainstorming. The second brainstorming activity is called flashbacks, and that I have literally made you a list of like 1 through 14. And you can do this in a couple of ways. You can talk about like age. Obviously, you're really not going to remember anything from age 1, but like as far back as you can remember. I remember learning to tie my shoes. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember sitting on a little red picnic table in front of the trailer where we lived, and I had on a Winnie the Pooh nightgown. I remember that, and I was learning to tie my shoes. So I might put that down as an early memory, okay? Not a whole lot of stuff going on there. It's not super detailed. It's not going to be anything you could write a book about, but it's a definite significant memory. I would put that down and just jot down as many of those things as you can remember, things that stood out to you. I remember in kindergarten, a boy threw up on my head. I am not making that up. That is a real thing. That's something I would include in kindergarten, okay? That was a vivid memory. If you're not picking up on it, I had a horrible kindergarten year, okay? It was not good on any level. So those are the things that I would include in my brainstorming. So the point of this activity is to generate as many ideas as possible, because next week we'll write the narrative essay, and we want it to be something that's actually pretty small, like a pretty small event, but something that was impactful to you and influenced you in some way, or something that you remember for whatever reason, okay? And a lot of times when I make this assignment, people just are like, oh, well, I'll write about this because it was this big event. But if you take the time to do the brainstorming activity, you'll find all kinds of really great story ideas that you'd forgotten about, or you thought, well, that's not that big a deal. But it actually is pretty awesome, and it makes a really good essay. And the point of the essay is to tell a story about your life, and to do it in just that way. You don't have to, preach about any kind of lesson that you learned or anything like that. It's just something that made an impact on you. And believe it or not, a lot of the essays that that we will write in this class are things that you can use next year on your college application. You're going to have all kinds of writing prompts or whatever. Tell us something about yourself, something that was significant in your life. And if you write something that's really different and unique, that's a good thing, because you're applying to colleges where you literally have thousands of applicants, and you want to have something that kind of stands out and is different and unusual. I've had students write essays in the past that were everything from cherry picking with your cousin that you hated to picking up trash on the side of the road with your grandpa for extra cash, to your mother going back to Mexico a month before she had you, and because she was homesick and wanted her own mother, and then when she got back, you weren't a citizen, and how that's impacted your life. I mean, there's been some pretty emotionally charged essays that we've read, and some of them have just been flat out funny. Fights you've gotten in, bike accidents, things like that. And some of them have been like pretty emotional. And so whatever you end up writing, it doesn't matter if it's funny, if it's sad, whatever, just whatever kind of speaks to you and that you want to share, then that's what you should write about, okay? Next week, once you've written the whole essay, and the second half of this assignment is actually reading it and sharing it with the class. And this is one of my favorite things that we do all semester, and I'm super bummed that we're not going to be together to do this, because it's always such a great experience, and everybody's very hesitant at first. I can already hear the groans all over Surry County right now, because you're like, I don't want to share this and read it. Trust me when I say this is like a really good, positive experience for everybody, and it ends up being a favorite assignment. So we're going to try to recreate it the best that we can. We're not together, so it's not quite the same effect, but we're going to record ourselves reading our essay, and I do want you to read it. The emphasis here is on read it. Don't just tell it to us on the video. I want you to actually read it word for word from your essay, and then share it with us either through a video recording or through an audio recording next week, okay? So this week we're just brainstorming. We're going to talk about it in our Google Meet. We'll share some ideas. This is always a fun class because we basically just end up telling really funny stories, and it's super interesting. And that's what you'll share with me, and I will give you feedback. Next week, you'll be writing the actual essay and then reading it and recording it. And you'll share the written copy with me, but you'll also post your video so that everybody can hear your story. Okay? So that's what we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. After that, we're going to finish up with our synthesis essay, and that's pretty much it for us. So hang in there, and if you have any questions, give me a call. Bye.